honestly, I can't tell you the last time I asked a client to make an offer on a property.
We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution. Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 425. You know, everybody wants to be a part of a winner, but very few have the courage to show up before they know they're going to be a winner, before they win. Long before Align, as you see in the background here, became the number one EXP team in the world in both units and production. Before the awards, the recognition, it was simply a vision. One of the very first people to believe in that vision is today's guest. Eric Goldfarb didn't join a team that already had success. He helped build it as the first team member many years ago. He lived through uncertainty, the long days, the growing pains, all the CRMs, and the breakthrough moments that transformed a small team into one of the most respected organizations in real estate, completely all as a whole. Today, Eric's one of Align's leaders, but this conversation isn't about production numbers. It's about recognizing opportunity before anyone else did, betting on people, leading through growth, and helping build something extraordinary from the ground up. What did he see back there that others didn't? What has he been able to do because of it? How did he build his business inside of it and help grow the team at the same time? Well, I'm as excited to talk about Align as anybody else. Welcome, Eric Goldfarb. Hey, man.
What's going on? Excited to
be
here.
Man. So yeah, that was good for you?
Oh, yeah. That'll do it.
Awesome. So anyway, man, so everybody's got a story. But before we get started, I do have one question I have to ask you, which is the standard question I ask every week. What does TGIF stand for?
Thank God it's finale.
Hey, you know what? I'm very pleased that a member of the team understands that and got it. Thank you very much, Eric. I'm so excited.
I've watched many of these episodes.
What's that?
I said I've watched many of these episodes over the years.
I am so excited to have you here, man. I mean, you were Brett's number one guy. Like, you know, you came in, you started the early days. But first, before we get that, I mean, there's a reason you got into real estate and how you got to where you and Brett connected. Talk to me about your journey in life to there.
Yeah, so grew up in North Jersey. I went to University of Maryland, was planning on going to law school. I thought that was my path. And then, you know, after 4 years of college, I was thinking about 3 more years of law school. And I was like, I just want to go out and start making some money. So I nixed the law school idea. I got a job in commercial real estate in Brooklyn with Marcus and Millichap doing industrial real estate. But my heart was always in the investing. My brother exposed me to investing at a pretty young age. That was like the early days of Bigger Pockets, which anyone that's thought about investing probably has heard of what that is. You know, huge Bigger Pockets is a huge real estate forum for big investors, first-time investors, et cetera, and just a really good knowledge base at this point. But, you know, I did like 6 months in industrial real estate in Brooklyn. To be honest, to this day, I still don't remember the neighborhoods. Like, I just didn't get Brooklyn. They stuck me out in East New York and Brownsville, which is not a neighborhood I was really familiar with. I didn't connect all that well with the owners of the properties that I was meeting. And honestly, like, that's never been an issue of mine. I connect deeply with pretty much everyone that I meet. And
right.
I just, it didn't feel right. You know, the office was a little bit cutthroat and a little bit toxic. Everybody was like kind of calling the same people. And at the end of the day, I wanted to be investing. So I had shadowed Brett when I was still in college. I shadowed him for a day or two in Jersey City. That was like right when he was buying one of his first investment properties, I think with Rosado. And so shadowed him, had a good experience, and it was just kind of the perfect storm. I left my job in Brooklyn. I reached out to him, and you know, he basically was like, you know, I'm starting my own team. Not sure how you feel about real estate after, you know, quitting the other job. And I was like, no, dude, like, it just wasn't for me. I'm all about it. I love the idea of being an agent, having the opportunity to invest. And I think the biggest piece of all this was that I wasn't able to be entrenched in the markets that I wanted to be investing in. And that was Jersey City. To date, my brother and I have probably done 15 to 25 projects. We've got one going on in Montclair. And yeah, that's kind of been my trajectory. We can talk a little bit more about what we've done within the team and my brokerage life. But you know, it's always been a mix of training agents, getting, you know, exposing people to the real estate world, and you know, getting them into the brokerage world or the investing world, and then investing, flipping, Airbnb, and you know, just the typical day-to-day of helping people buy and sell properties.
You know, some of the most successful agents I've met over the last, I'm going to say since I left my own brokerage 9 years ago, have been those that have gotten involved in investing themselves. I think they believed that, you know, their path to being successful in real estate was investment. Of course, I will, to be honest with you, I've met a lot of people that I said, well, I'm going to buy properties. I'm going to be an investor. And I figured I'd get my license for the hell of it. Those people never made it. Or they kept their license and they did some investment, but they didn't really want to be in real estate. Right. But you had that thing to do both. Did you think one was going to help the other, or you just like the idea of helping others sell and buy?
Well, I've definitely been, I've worked a ton of jobs over the years. I've always been in the service industry in some way. And, you know, I always tell new agents that start in this business, we're highly paid servants. You know, like the better customer experience, client experience you can provide, the more money you're going to make, and the more people you can talk to, obviously, the more money you're going to make. So, you know, I always knew that the real estate investment would be a byproduct of being in the industry. And, you know, we could talk about the trajectory that I was on. I started as an agent with Brett. I was taking his overflow of business. And then as we started growing the team, I became the sales manager, then sales director. And I think I started to take a back seat on the management side once we hit somewhere between like 150 and 200 million in sales. The team was growing. You know, I started to see changes in the company that, you know, I started to feel like I was better suited to grow my own real estate team within Align versus being, you know, full management. And I think that's a good thing to chat about of today. Is just the overall theme of like, when you join real estate as an agent, there's so many people that are really good managers. There's so many people that are really good salesmen, and you've got to really figure out like your niche in there, because at the end of the day, like my heart was not in the management of, you know, a massive team, right? Like, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really a good point, and it's something we're going to dig into right now. So, just as my background goes, started, you know, working around construction sites, managing properties, building, you know, being involved in building, being involved in mixed use properties, single family homes, etc., and managing properties at the same time. Managed a liquor store as well at one time. That was crazy. Never do that. Don't ever do that. Get into retail. By the way, everybody, if you're in real estate, stay away from retail. But what I saw over the years was in my brokerage was, you know, the broker was there, bring in agents, give them whatever they need. Some places, I mean, that was over the years. I was more in the infancy and how Remax started, where, you know, where you saw a Remax broker as a landlord, and they really didn't run an operation such as a team or a brokerage. It was bring in the agents, have phones and copy machines, and that's all they needed. And then, as far as I said, before we came on the air today, I started talking about Align and the team and all this other stuff. And being a legacy broker, that's what I'm going to call myself, not any longer, but with a franchise, a Century 21 franchise, you know, you saw how others had done their job and had built their businesses and built their brokerages, but it was always broker first. It was always top down, right? And everything I learned as I was owning my brokerage and trying to build it from one of my a good friend and all-time best coach, John Cheplak, was, you know, it's got to be more bottom up than top down. And when Align, when the Sikora group and everything started there, and I saw how Align was being built, it was more of a group effort, a bottom up type effort, because the bottom was happy and the top was happy. And you talk to Brett and says, he just wants to have everybody be happy and make money. And he does his job to do that. This is not about Brett. This is about you and me. This is about you. But do you see what I mean about being that legacy part, that complete opposite of what Align is, and how difficult it was? Like, if I could have done that, or let's just say if I had the guts to do that, it would be a lot different. You know what I'm talking about? Talk to me about that and the process of the legacy brokerages and Align and that team.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I guess going back to the sales side versus the management side.
Right.
I personally, for me, just felt like I like to be a little bit closer to the client and the deal, right? So the larger the team got, I was still managing and, basically deal doctoring with all the agents on the team. And then as we got bigger and bigger, then we started having, more of a pod structure where I was managing some of the sales managers, right? And then I just realized for myself, as I got further away, my interest in that particular role became less and less. And over the years we had just so many, like you mentioned earlier, different CRM changes, and the resources that we have today, we did not have back then,
Right.
So, I'm really happy where I'm at with the team now. I'm thoroughly enjoying running my own team within the team. We have all the resources that we need to help agents grow. I brought on David Mortzinski and a couple other part-timer agents that have been supporting my business, helping me with rentals, helping me with clients that I just can't really service properly at this point. And, David's been incredible. I think he did 17 million his first full year in the business. So just goes to show you, like, all the opportunities that there are here versus being a single agent. And going back to, like, if I relate that to what you were talking about with, like, the legacy structure versus, what we're doing at Align, I think timing is everything, right? No matter if it's, in business or in your life. And I'm not sure exactly what, when you sold your business, maybe you can touch on that a little bit, but, I think the real estate industry really started shifting more towards teams versus brokerages, right? So then, like, how can you become more of a back-end support for a big team where you have these companies like Side and Place? Like, that's essentially, what we're building here. And yeah, I think it's just the right timing for Align to be more of a solution than a brokerage.
See, when you talk about brokerages, you talk about legacy brokerages, where I was, right? And I use the phrase, I walked away. I did sell it. I walked away. Why did I walk away? One of the things I always wanted to be, that cutting edge guy, that tech guy, all that stuff. The internet was just breaking and just breaking in and everything. I was doing Google AdWords. I was doing Facebook ads before anybody knew how to do them. I got to be really good at it. My problem was that I got to be really good at it, and agents were afraid of the technology, right? Yeah. And timing is everything, as you said, right? So I probably walked away at the right time, but at the wrong time as well, because I kind of lost a little touch with technology as time went on and had to catch up really quickly. I was able to do that during COVID, we actually ran a session every night at 8:00 during COVID with agents all over the country, and it grew pretty nicely. But I digress there. But the point is timing, right? Where the people getting into real estate after that were more people that were going to look at it as a business, as more of a job. You talk about David Mortzinski. Let's talk about there's other people, Christian Gonzalez, for instance, right? Yep. Where they left other organizations, other businesses, other careers to be in real estate. And what have we seen there? The difference is, if it's your job and your career, you have no choice but to excel. It's not you're going to your 9 to 5, you're checking in at 9, you're having lunch at noon, you're leaving at 4:30, 5 o'clock. That is not real estate, right? But it is because if you do the work when you're at the job, you get paid. The better you do, hopefully you rise up the ladder, so to speak, and you make money. This is the business where you can make money, climb that ladder quickly. And a lot of people don't see that, because when I had my brokerage, and we still hear it today, where people say, well, you should have 6 months of income left, so that you can survive, because you're not going to get paid for, 3 to 6 months. I find that to be probably the biggest negative line that anybody can tell any newer agent, that they're not going to make any money. That's bullshit. But
100%.
I mean, to a point. What do you think about all that?
I mean, I agree that it's BS. Yes, I think from some in some perspectives, you want to
Yes.
you prepare yourself for the worst, so if this is even feasible. But I think the fact that people say that is just because real estate is generally, you're a lonely agent on an island with no access to resources, no leads, and just no opportunities. So,
Right.
I think being at Adeline, we have Zillow Flex, they pummel us with leads way more than we can get. And, every day in the Slack channel, we have our ISA saying, hey, new lead, new lead, new lead. And they're good price points too. It's not like agents are coming in and working $200,000 leads. Like, if they're showing up and they're converting well, we're giving them $1 million leads within a couple months. And yeah, so, I think it's just about showing up every day. And, the Zillow Flex doesn't have to be the end all be all for somebody's business, right? Like, you don't want to be working buyer leads your entire career. There are agents that are really good buyer agents, and they structure their business in a way where they don't have to be everywhere at once. But at the same time, I think just getting all those reps early on helps you, after a couple months, take a step back and look at everything you've enjoyed about the business so far and everything you haven't. And then you just reset your business from there and figure out, okay, what do I want to go after now? Who do I work well with? And whether that's buyers, sellers, investors, I think that's something I've been coaching my agents on, and it's led them in the direction that's making them a lot more happy in the business too.
I think what you just said is really similar to what I said, in that when you get a regular job, if you do what you're supposed to do, you'll go up the ladder. You just said it in a different way with real estate. I mean, with the team, or a team, is the better you do, the better opportunities you'll have.
Yep.
Right. And that's how it goes. So tell me about your business, though. Let's talk about how you grew your business. Industrial real estate to start. Why industrial real estate? Why was that a thing? I mean,
Yeah.
Marcus and up in Brooklyn. You're from New Jersey, right?
I'm from New Jersey. Brooklyn was cool, hip, and to be honest, I planned to, when I got into the office, I thought I was going to be doing multifamily real estate there, but I just saw how all the different teams in the office were literally calling the same people. And I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be developing relationships with other brokers or agents in the office, but also calling the same people that they're calling. It just felt weird. So, from that perspective, I feel like you talk about a little the collaboration. Like, in residential real estate, there's plenty of business to go around. In commercial, honestly, there's really not. I mean, there is if you really stick to it, but it's just way more dog eat dog. And here, if you just show up every day and do what you need to do, you're going to make money. For better or for worse, I feel like real estate agents are a commodity, and in the long run, the best residential agents will stand out, and they're going to make more money than everyone else. But the barrier to entry is nothing, right? It's like
There is
a couple $100 in a real estate exam with 100 questions.
Yeah.
So I was in Brooklyn, and I just felt like I wanted to be investing, which I ended up getting into. I thought I was going to be doing residential, ended up on the industrial team because of what I mentioned. And then my allure to the industrial side was I wanted to be doing those old warehouse conversions where you sell, an old factory that ends up getting, repurposed and reused to condos. Yep. or rentals. And I thought I'd be in a Red Hook area. I ended up out in East New York and Brownsville, which, at the end of the day, it brought me to where I am today. So no regrets with it. But I just saw that East New York and Brownsville was not where like the market there was not ripe for those types of conversions yet, and I didn't want to wait
Yeah.
5 or 10 years until that happened. So that's what brought me over to Jersey.
Yeah, what's interesting is I have a college friend, and I've been around a few years, who went there at the beginning in Brooklyn. And he's done very well for himself. And he went there when it was nothing, and now it's something. He saw it. I don't know how, but he did.
If I
All right.
had the balls to get into industrial real estate back 10 years ago when I was trying to sell it versus just flipping and trying to buy it, I'd probably be retired by now, but it is what it is.
Yeah, retirement's a thing. Retirement is a thing that I don't know if I even understand. But anyway, so you come to Jersey. You come to Jersey. You're Brett's first guy, right? Did you ever think that how is this thing going to work, or this thing isn't going to work, or what am I doing? Did you ever have that feeling, or what went through your mind over that first period of time?
No, honestly, there was never any doubt that it was going to work. It was just how can I contribute best to the team, and how can I live a life that I really wanted to live while making as much money as I needed to make, or as much as I wanted to make. I definitely come from a family that, just pushes hard work and, power through. And I think, I coached with Matthew Ferry in 2018. Everybody in the class, in the group was in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And I was sitting there as like a 25-year-old. I'm like, my life's so good. Like, what am I doing here really? Like it was a really interesting experience, like going through all this like mindset work when all my friends were out in Montauk and the Hamptons and Jersey Shore in the summers, like partying, and I was working weekends. And now I flip it and I still bust my ass, but like the business is more so coming in now because I've built a business and a name. And now I feel like a lot of my friends are getting serious about their lives and their careers. So it's an interesting dynamic. But yeah, I mean, as far as my trajectory within the team, I feel like it's always been pretty natural. If it wasn't, I probably wouldn't still be here. And I think it just goes to show like the culture, the people here. At this point, they're family, and that's what keeps us around.
I think the interesting thing to most and to me always is, and I see it so much now, is the people that really put the time in when they first get into the business, and then they're able to live that life, right? Like you said, you're 25. I mean, you're doing all these things. I remember years ago when I first got into business. I mean, I was working, 6, 7 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night, and then you start having family and everything else. That changes a bit. But the thing is that we want to get to the point of living a life and having fun doing it. I mean, and that's one of the things I really admire about you, is that you've been able to build a business where you've been able to do business a lot remotely. Tell me a little bit about that part of your life.
Yeah, I'm a huge snowboarder. So in the winter, I like to take, a couple weeks off at a time, go on ski trips. Storm chase, as they say. If I see a big storm coming to Colorado or up in Vermont, I'll fly out there and try and get some good powder. But that just is my reset for the year. We bust our ass through the spring, summer, and fall, and the winter slows down anyway. So what's the point of being here? I'm still having conversations. I'm still setting up my spring, summer, and fall. But that's when most of the business is done anyway. So why not take some time off? And I mean, Brett always challenged me. He's like, let's see like how much money you can make without being in New Jersey, and that I think that challenge is just something that most people don't think about. It's like, oh, I need to be here. And like, actually you realize that when you're on vacation, everyone's like, oh, I go on vacation. That's when all the deals happen. It's just because like you're relaxed, you're more focused, and you're getting done the things that you need to get done on a daily basis that are actually creating the biggest changes in your business. Some of the top agents in Hudson County are probably only working, like really actually doing deep work for 3 to 5 hours a day, right? And everything else is just busy work. And I think a lot of agents get caught up in the busy work and don't take the leap of faith to hire an assistant or showing agent or some type of admin support to really like make that change. And honestly, it just makes the business more fun. Like not every agent's good at everything in the business. So like, why are you doing the shit that you don't want to be doing anyway?
So let's talk. Let's unpack that a little bit and talk about that. Where you have to do the busy work. You have to do the work to get it going, and that all involves schedule, calendar, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So typically, when you started compared to now, give me what a schedule looked like for you. Let's say 5-6 years ago, before you were able to, do those trips in the winter and stuff. Talk to me about what your schedule was, and then I want to talk to you about what it was today. What is today?
Yeah. Previously, I would say morning was meetings with agents, confirming all my appointments for the day, some prospecting and follow up for an hour or two, and then jumping into agent one-on-ones. So I was doing one-on-ones with up to 40 agents a month, probably, and on like a rotating calendar. And that morphed into doing one-on-ones with the sales managers or the pod leaders is what we called them when Pipes was coaching us. And then I slowly, as I was going away from that, went back into having coffee, lunches, dinners with investors, following up with clients, honestly just like engaging with people on social media. Majority of my business at this point is past clients, sphere referrals, agent referrals, and investor business. So go ahead.
And this is and your business today is based on all the hard work you put in, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, and working that schedule and prospecting. Was prospecting something that you did an awful lot of in the beginning? And you had mentioned, you were taking some of Brett's overflow and stuff. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's you hit a good question there. I've never been like the machine gun prospector. When we were at Marcus and Millichap, I was probably making 100, 200 phone calls a day, and I just burnt out every single day. Like it was not my thing. And once I came over here, I was prospecting still, but I got way more tactical about it. I chose specific neighborhoods. I would drive for dollars and figure out specific owners that looked like either they were vacant properties, out-of-state owners, overgrown properties, and just dilapidated homes. So I was more of a sniper than a machine gun, and that's something that I talk with Spitz about a lot. Spitz a machine gun. He'll just hop on the phones. He never misses a day of prospecting or follow up. And the follow up is not my forte. It never has been, but I think I do enough to stay top of mind and engage with people. And then what I really focus on is like the client experience. Like I am teaching a brand new buyer or an investor just about everything that they need to know about real estate, to the point where I feel like they feel comfortable enough with me that if they're not going to buy today, they're going to think about me in a year.
Okay, I want everybody to rewind this 30 seconds and listen to what Eric just said. Teaching a buyer. That's kind of what you just said, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important to our conversations. Like a lot of people want to put in, they want to tell people shit, right? When you're teaching, you're talking about the market, you're talking about how things work, you're talking about their best interest, et cetera, and building that relationship through a you could say teacher student, but more or less, a lot of people, you use that phrase because they really need to understand what they're doing rather than just going out and buying a freaking house or selling a house, right? How does that relate to building relationships for you? How did that work?
I think the more you learn about people and the more questions you ask about them, the more they'll open up to you about their financial picture, why they're buying the house, why they're selling a house, why they want to get into investing. There's so many different reasons to get into real estate. And you know what? That's why I love it, honestly. It's like there's so many different paths you can go down as an investor, as an agent, as a broker, whatever it may be. So I think you just open the door by having conversation with people. And everybody says if you're a showing agent, at the end of every appointment, you should be asking them to make an offer. And
That's
honestly,
right.
I don't believe in that. Like, I think from a script sales perspective, you ask a question in some form of that to find
Yes.
out what they like about it, what they don't like about it. But honestly, I can't tell you the last time I asked a client to make an offer on a property, right? Like, we talk about the property after and we learn about the neighborhoods, and I teach them about the market value. And then they get to the point where they're ready and they say, all right, I like this. What's the next step? How do we make an offer? So
Yeah.
I've always taken that like very low pressure sales approach. And, I guess I'm a salesman, but it doesn't really feel like it.
Exactly. And that's the point, is you're building relations. Now, you mentioned a name, and I want to bring this up too, Danny Spitz,
Yeah.
who I believe, if I remember the story correctly, he was from Chicago and came to Hudson County with you.
Yep.
You both went to college together. Is that
We
correct?
did. Yeah. We were fraternity brothers, and he came to shadow me and Brett, just like I shadowed Brett. And he just jumped in head first. And that kid was like locked himself in effectively like a maintenance closet for 2 years and just prospected like all hell.
So you used the phrase shotgun and sniper. Okay.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to think about this as these two different people, right? Danny Spitz, who has been a guest on this broadcast, talks about his way of building his database was just making call after call after call. And it was kind of targeted call. It was circle prospecting. A lot of it was cold, not much warm. And what you said your process was to drive neighborhoods, look for dilapidated properties, look for, absentee owners, all this other stuff, which required research to be that sniper. Now, I look at your two methodologies of doing business and building a business, both extremely successful. And I guess it's just a matter of what people are going to like to do. Do you think it makes sense to, when a new agent comes in to this business, to talk about both styles? Or is it important for a new agent to understand that they've got to put their time in the actual hardcore prospecting? Is that something that's important for them to understand, rather than it's just they're going to find it?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of agents get dependent on Zillow Flex and, just getting fed leads. And honestly, I feel like I was guilty of that when I was working with Brett. Like, he was giving me his overflow of business, and some of those leads were $100,000 leads. Every lead is a good lead if you can capitalize on it in some way. But, once I started saying no to certain leads, certain areas, certain price points, that was really when my business got more fun. The clients got better. They always say the leads get better when you get better. And at this point, my average price point's over $1 million on the buy side. I'm particular about who I work with, but I'll try and help everyone, right? I'll tell them if it's not my particular, area of expertise, or honestly, at the end of the day, like, this is a business. And if I don't feel like I can be all in and help somebody, I'm going to tell them that. So
I think one of the interesting things.
One more thing I wanted to just add with that is that I think somebody needs to build the muscle of picking up the phone, right? If you're not going to answer the phone, there's so many people in this business that I'm doing deals with, and like, they won't call you. Like, they're literally texting and negotiating a deal, and it's not the same. You're doing a disservice to your seller if you're doing that.
I completely agree with that. When I first came into Align, I was running boot camps, and our goal in those boot camps was to have everyone start building that muscle and feeling the pain of muscle growth. They say no pain, no gain, and a lot of people say that's bullshit. But I believe that you need to have something that might be difficult for you to be able to see the avenues of other things that will work better for you, right? I never prospected getting into the business and learned how to, and became, expert at scripts and all this other stuff. And I know that, it's very important for you to really feel that grind, so you actually see how it works and how it can work. The most important thing really, when we talk about sniper, shotgun, is that building a relationship. I mean, one of the things you talk about with leads is, a lot of people get a lead and then they say they lose the lead, they ghost them. And a question I have, I did a video about this morning. it'll be up in a couple of days, was, is your lead ghosting you? Is your lead talking to you? Is that because of what you said and the questions you asked? Because it's not a matter of following the script. You mentioned Matthew Ferry and his dad, Mike Ferry, has the legendary scripts, which in a way still work, but I believe that those can be used in other ways and using questions. And that's the situation. A lot of people just say, oh, what's your name? What's your address? What are you looking for? That's what we taught in the 80s and 90s. That's not what we teach today.
Totally.
And I think the important part is how you leave that lead will determine whether you talk to them again. You agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I think you've got to meet them where they are, and you can't just assume that a conversation with a Zillow lead is going to be the exact same conversation you have with an Instagram lead or a Facebook lead. Like you were talking about earlier, when you were doing Facebook and SEO, pay-per-click advertising, my brother and I have done all of that over the years. And, it's just a very different conversation. Like, yeah, you might hit the needle in the haystack that is ready to buy or ready to sell in the moment. But I think you need to approach a Facebook lead as they're just looking for information, right? They're not ready to buy or ready to sell, more likely. And then a Zillow lead, they could have been searching for the last year and a half, and then they just fired their realtor and they found the right property,
Yeah.
So it's a totally different ballgame. And I think you've got to know, like what Tom Ferry, I think, does really well is he took everything that his father taught and adapted it for, today's society and what consumers are looking for.
Yeah, and I'm going to take that one step further. When you look at Bill Pipes and how Bill has built his G3 Nation and all that stuff, is he's really taken it to that next level with a lot of NLP, et cetera. I forgot what I was going to say, but but you're absolutely correct.
I'll throw you a shout out. Just like one of the things that I admire the most about you is that you've been in this business for so long and you still show up every single day and you're involved. You're pouring into all the agents, and just it goes to show that all the original foundations of real estate skills and sales still work. People shun the idea of prospecting, follow up, and they're just like they want to be a social media influencer for real estate, but they don't know how to deal doctor. They don't know how to strategically put together offers and price properties. And at the end of the day, I think everything is supplemental. If you have a big outreach on Instagram, great, but that's not going to get the home sold. You still need to know the market. You still need to know how to properly set the property up for sale. And I think that's what a lot of people are losing sight of.
Yeah, thank you for that. One of the things that I did want to say when we were talking about ads and pay-per-click and everything else, I want everybody to understand that when you do Facebook ads, there's a reason for that Facebook ad. It's more awareness than anything else. No one wakes up on a Saturday morning and says, I'm going to Facebook to find a home. No one has ever done that. They're not going to find a home there. Investors will go to Marketplace. I will say that, right? And wholesalers will put homes on Marketplace.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to Facebook to find a home. And it's really important for you. What's that?
I'll tell you a quick story when you're done with that.
Go ahead.
My brother and I were prospecting for properties. We were doing pay-per-click advertising and Facebook as well. And we had this one lead that came in late at night, like 11 p.m. on a Saturday night or whatever it was. And it was this lady in South Orange. She owned a beautiful Victorian on Kilburn Place. And this was right before COVID. We bought her right around 2019. When we met her, she's like walking us through the house. It was it was dilapidated, it needed a ton of work, but we saw what it could be, and it was so cool. And she basically told us, she's like, I'm a professional clown. That she had a bunch of random clown stuff throughout the house. We're like, what's this all? She's like, oh, I go to parties and I'm a professional clown. We're like, all right, that's interesting. And we're like, how'd you end up reaching out to us? And she's like, oh, I was playing a game of solitaire late at night and I lost. I got pissed off and I saw your Facebook ad and decided to reach out. And so we show up at the property and we're about to negotiate a deal. It's my brother and I and her, and we walk through and we're like, all right, so we'll get back to you. We sounds like you're pretty interested. We'll get you a number within the next 24 hours. And then she like crosses her arms on her front step, front porch, and goes, no. I just showed you the property. I want an offer right now. And I'm like, oh shit, I don't know this market well enough. Like, we were doing most of our stuff in Hudson County, and we ventured out to Essex at the time. This is 2019, and my brother's like running numbers in his head as I'm just like kind of stalling to like let him figure it out. And we literally shook a deal, like an old school handshake deal with her right on her front porch. And that was probably one of the best deals we've ever bought to date. It was like a 3,500 square foot Victorian, 5 minutes from South Orange train. We bought it, I think, for like 370. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So I want to talk to you about getting into investing as a real estate agent. If you could do anything differently, what would you tell yourself when you just were getting started that you would do differently back then to now, as getting into real investing from being a real estate agent?
Yeah. It's interesting because my brother and I took a little bit of a break from buying investment properties, and now we're jumping back in. And we see a lot of wholesale deals. We see a lot of off-market deals from different investors and agents. And when we show up at the properties, it's like all the same old people that we dealt with 10 years ago when we first started. So it's cool to see that all those people are still, around and doing business. And I think based on that, we always told agents when I was coaching them back in the day, you'll overestimate what you can do in a year, and you'll underestimate what you can do with 5 or 10. And I think if we had really just stuck with our marketing campaigns, built out a better system for follow-up, my brother and I are good when we're face-to-face with these people and getting the deal done, but we're not the best with follow-up. Like, we're not going to sit behind a desk and follow up with 50 people per day. So I think that my biggest regret in the investment world was not sticking to like just building that pipeline, understanding that follow-up was not my strong suit, and having someone else to do that. And then, we would show up for the appointments. And also over the years, like, my investment thesis has changed. I know you talked a little bit, you were asking me a couple of days ago, what are you looking for right now? And after buying my place that I'm calling in from right now in Weehawken, I took a leap of faith, bought a way more expensive property during COVID than I had ever really planned. And the renovations cost me way more than I ever expected, which they always do. But in reality, like, now that I'm here and it's done, I want to do it again. I don't want to go back and buy a $500,000 property. I want to buy $1 million place that I need to put 500 or $1 million into, because I don't want to deal with crappy tenants anymore. I want to deal with high-end luxury tenants that are going to end up becoming buyers too. I run Airbnb, and I've gotten a bunch of buyer leads from my Airbnbs too. They've realized that I'm in real estate and we're talking about it. And so, there's just so many different lead sources and ways to build your business.
I think it's really important to enjoy every bit and every part of what you do, as you get on in this business. I mean, there's a couple of things that happen. Number one, you start having success and you start changing some things as time goes on. And one of the things I learned from Chet was, what about what worked 5 years ago, where you started really building? Maybe that's something that you should revisit to start really growing your business and scaling, because it worked back then. Why wouldn't it work now? That's number one. Number two, for me, what do you enjoy? Right? What do you enjoy doing? Have you found what you enjoy? And if you haven't, and this is for you, keep searching for it. For me, I realized a year ago that I really enjoy the building part of it, the renovating part of it, the fixing part of it. When I say fixing, I'm able to do a lot of different things with a project, with a building, with a house, with people, that I forgot I love doing. And now that I remember doing it, that's what I'm focusing on, doing some fix and flips. And I did them way back when. We didn't call them that. I forget what we called them, but there are other things that I was able to do in the building that I did, and how I brought it to completion, and the people I dealt with, because that was the fun part. So I think it's really important to have an awful lot of fun with what you're doing, but you really need to be diligent. There's a lot of people out there, Eric, that we've seen them that they're stuck or they keep moving. I mean, what I've seen differently over the past 3 years is that I've seen agents that come and go, but you see the ones that start rising, and it's they're really enjoying what they're doing, and we see that in the interior of a line. What do you think it is that kicks people into gear in this business?
I mean, I think you have to be competitive to be in sales, and the competitive nature, like one of my favorite things to see is every Friday, you see the leaderboards that come up. And when I drop a spot in the leaderboards, I'm busting my ass that next week to get back to the top. So I think just the competition, and it's friendly competition. Like if any other agent on the team calls me with questions on a deal, I'm going to talk through it with them, right? It just makes it fun. Like I'm not doing any less business because I'm helping somebody else out, and none of us are really calling the same people. So, it's fun to be in a culture that's collaborative, where everyone's helping everyone, and the mutual success of the team is what everybody's looking for.
Yeah, and you know what I want to point out when we talk about one of my favorite lines is collaboration over competition, and that's the difference in my life and my business from my brokerage to team life with a line is this collaboration over competition. And you know what? We always used to teach our agents that if a seller or buyer mentioned one of your colleagues in the company, you should back away. I mean, we don't even have to say that here,
Yeah,
right? I mean, and it's competition too, but it's friendly competition. It's everybody's having fun. It's the events we do and the things we do together for each other, with each other, is really important. We're coming up on time now, and honestly, I don't think we talked about anything we talked about the other day, which is fine, which is great. I mean, and
that's a
that's what
good
these
podcast, right?
conversations. What's that?
I said that's the sure sign of a good podcast.
I believe so. I mean, it's a conversation. So what would be the best advice that you could give someone that's thinking about investing, but they know real estate is the way to go? What would be the best bit of advice to give a younger agent, a stuck agent, to really catapult them to move forward and get off their ass and get out of their own way?
If they want to be investing, I would say underwrite as many deals as you possibly can so that you get comfortable and confident that when you see a good deal, it's a good deal, because there's so much money out there. And if you're an agent, you probably have clients that have money that would invest with you. You probably know people in the industry that would invest with you, or you hopefully have family that could invest with you too. So the most important thing is buying right and jumping into the right deal first, because if you flop on the first one, you're probably never going to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I've learned, I just want to add on to that really quickly, is that it could take you 10, it could take you 100 before you find the right deal for yourself. And
Yeah,
don't be jumping into anything. But I want to tell you that probably the best foreteller of success is going to be your gut. 'Cause unfortunately, we use that all the time, and there's no numbers in your gut, right? But you've seen it and you've done it. Am I right?
totally. Yeah. When I walked up to this place, it was 5 years ago, I was like, oh shit, I'm really going to regret this for the rest of my life if I don't buy this place. And I did. And there were many times throughout the construction process that I was like, oh shit, I'm about to lose this place. Like, what if I lose this place, But the reality was, I took the leap of faith. And if I had to go back and live with my parents for a little while before I got back on my feet, I would have. So I'm happy I
And
did it.
and that's the thing. I mean, you have those fears, and the fears, are ever driving, and they seem to work. So, hey, man, I want to thank you so much for being on the broadcast today. I have two things left. One is the question, the other is a comment. First is, how do I help you grow your business?
I mean, you're doing it right now, whether you thought about that or not. But I mean, honestly, I think what I can say is collaboration and having some type of like mentorship is all you need to get into investing or brokerage, or just buying your first home as an owner occupied property for yourself and your family. So, I talk to people all the time that never end up buying anything. I talk to people that, I've done 20 deals with at this point. So it's just start the conversation, and you never know where it's going to go, but, keep an open mind, and, we're happy to help. If it's not me, we've got a pretty far reach with the line in many states throughout New Jersey, and I'll connect you with the right person.
Hey, man, I want to thank you so much for being on the broadcast. Of course, the broadcast cannot end without the hat. Today is a special hat for you because it's got the Align logo on the side.
It's been a hot summer. I appreciate a good hat.
We will get this hat to you. Thank you so much. Next week, guys, we have the short sale guru. He wrote the book Short Sale Savage. He's the owner at Real Estate Recovery Group. Matt Marinoff is going to join the broadcast next week. If you want to really get the lowdown on foreclosures and short sales and talk to a guy who does not bullshit you, this is where you want to be next week. Thanks so much for being on, Eric. Stay on as we go out. Everybody, have a great weekend. We'll see you real soon. We'll see you next week, actually. Take care.